from shul.
Okay, so we fell a little behind over the last 2 days. So
Okay.
we are on 18b. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 9 lines down.
The test.
The background is that in the trachea, which has to be cut for the shechita to be valid, there's a number of cartilage, a number of rings. So one of the rings is on the higher part. It's called the taba'as gedola, and that actually goes all the way around the trachea. Then there's a number of not full circle rings. They don't go all the way around, that are lower. And there we're going to talk about more, which ones do you cut and you consider it to be valid, and how much do you have to cut? So that was a little bit yesterday. Now it's important to know this because there's a halacha called hagrama, that if you slaughter it outside the area that you're supposed to slaughter, so that's invalid. So if, let's say, you hold that the big ring is where the tabas gedola is where the shechita takes place, if you do it on the smaller semicircular rings, like I don't know, the article, they have a nice picture under it, that's going to be invalid, and vice versa. So it's important to know where that area is and where hagrama is. So now, ki salik Rabbi Zera. Oh, so then there's one more. Was, let's say you start the slaughter in the right place. This is how we ended up yesterday. You start the slaughter in the right place, but then you end up going outside the area. So you'll, let's say, do 2/3 in the proper area and then 1/3 outside that area. Is that good or not good? So that was a debate that we had earlier, and Rav and Shmuel ended up saying that if you slaughtering in the big area, in the big ring, and you go outside of it, that's fine. But they disagreed that if you slaughter through any of the smaller rings under that, that's valid. That they disagreed with, and they said that is not valid. So now, Kisalik Rabbi Zera, when Rabbi Zera went up to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel, Achal Mugremes, he ate from an animal that was slaughtered properly, but then ended up going outside of the right area. So let's say it was 2/3 within the big ring, and then a little bit was on top of the big ring. So Rabbi Zera went and ate from such an animal, which means obviously he held that was valid. Achal Mugremes de Rav v'Shmuel. So Amri Lei, so they said to him, Lav Ma'aseh de Rav v'Shmuelat. So they said, aren't you from the place of Rav and Shmuel, and therefore you should be stringent? So he said, At Amar sorry, Amri Lav Ma'aseh de Rav Shmuelat. So Amar Lahu, he said to them, Man Amro, who testified in the name of Rav and Shmuel what they held? Yosef Bar Chia. So they said that was Yosef Bar Chia. He was one that testified from Rav and Shmuel. So says the Gemara, Yosef Bar Chia, what? Mekuli Alma Gamir. What do you mean? You think Yosef Bar Chia learned from like 100 different rabbis and like made a mistake exactly where he heard it from? He knew where he heard it from. He said it accurately, and I'll prove to you that he said things accurately because so Shomer of Yosef and Ikbit. Rav Yosef heard about this, that they were questioning his saying over Rav and Shmuel. He got upset. So Amar Ana Mekuli Alma Gamrina. So he says, what? You think I learned from everybody, and therefore I might have misquoted something? Ana Merav Yehuda Gamrina. I learned from Rav Yehuda. The Afilu Sveiko the Gavri Garis. Even things that were doubts, even things that were doubtful situations, I was able to say it over properly. For example, the Amr of Yudam Rav Yirmiyah Bar Abba, Safek Mishmei de Rav, Safek Mishmei de Shmuel, Shlosha Matirin Es HaBechor B'Makom She'ein Mumcha. So he says that even things that were doubtful, I said it properly. His opinion in the name of Rav and his opinion in the name of Shmuel. So he always said over properly who said what. So to here, he's the one that testified in the name of Rav and Shmuel, and therefore it's a proper it's proper what he said over, and you shouldn't doubt him. And the example was when there was 3 things that even though the bechor, an animal, has a blemish, but in certain situations you could allow if it's a blemish that's a very visible blemish, a temporary blemish. So even when there's no expert, you could still shecht that animal, yeah. So that's where he said over these laws in the name of Rav and Shmuel, but he's known to say things accurately, not inaccurately. So, okay, that was that. Now, the question comes up like this. Rabbi Zera came from one locale and went to a different locale. So he was from Bavel, and he ended up in Eretz Yisrael, and he ate from this animal. Now, the question is that there's a halacha in Pesachim, specifically regarding, I believe, doing work after midday on Erev Pesach. Some places the custom was not to do work. Some places the custom was to do work. And there the Gemara says, what happens if in your locale you don't do work and you end up in a place that does do work? So there the Gemara says that you take on the stringencies of the place that you came from. So we're asking Rabbi Zera, Leslie knows chumrei makom sheyatzu misham, the chumrei hamakom shehalach l'sham. You Rabbi Zera. So even though you came from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, but shouldn't you continue being stringent in your locale? I think they're asking that in your locale you were stringent. 1 second. Not that right now in this locale they're stringent. 1 second. Yeah, meaning Rabbi Zera, he ended up eating. Rav and Shmuel prohibited eating when you shecht it properly, and then you go, let's say 2/3 within the big ring, 1/3 outside the big ring. Rav and Shmuel said, they said that was fine. Rabbi Zera ate outside what they would permit. So, right, like one of the lower rings. Right. One of the lower rings, Rav and Shmuel held was prohibited. Rabbi Zera ate from that. So now we're asking, okay, you're in Eretz Yisrael now, very nice, but you came from Bavel where Rav and Shmuel were, so you came from a place where they were stringent not to eat from a shechita on the lower rings, and yet, even though you're in Eretz Yisrael now, but you still have to keep the stringencies of the place you came from. This is one of the sources of a 2-day. Someone keeps 2 days Yom Tov in Israel, so it comes from that. It comes from that chapter in Pesachim. So they asked him, "Don't you come from a place that is stringent? You should be stringent now." So the Gemara says that this law is true in almost all situations. Amar Abaye, Hani Mili, Mi Bavel LeBavel. One city in Bavel to another city in Bavel, you have to keep your stringencies from the place you came from. Lebavel, Eretz Yisrael. One city in Israel to another city in Israel, same thing. Keep the stringencies. Inami, Eretz Yisrael leBavel. Alternatively, Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Aval, mi Bavel Eretz Yisrael, but here comes a leniency, so to speak. If you're coming from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, Kevan da Anan Kaifina Lahu, we are subjugated, we're bound to them, we're dependent on them. Why? Because they have Kiddush HaChodesh, when the new moon is. They at the time had Smicha. If you have Smicha, then you can judge what's called Knossos, certain laws of penalties that were dependent on there being an institution called Smicha that allows you to judge those cases. So since we're very dependent and subjugated to them, so therefore, Abdina and Kivasayu, we actually do like them. And Rashi says, interestingly enough, we don't need to accord honor to our locale. According to Rashi, it sounds like keeping the stringencies of the place that you're in, it accords honor from where you came from. So even though you end up somewhere else, but you want to give honor to the place that you came from, so you keep those stringencies. However, when you're going to Eretz Yisrael, which you are subjugated in laws like the new moon and laws of certain judgments of penalties, things like that. So in that case, there's no, we don't have to accord honor to the place you're coming from because you're in a more honorable place now. You're subjugated to them. So that is Abaye's reason how Rav Zera could be lenient in Eretz Yisrael, even though he was he came from a place that's stringent. So Rav Ashi Amar, no. Afilu tema mi Bavel Eretz Yisrael. Even if you'll tell me, even Bavel Eretz Yisrael, you still yes, it's true. You are subjugated to them. That's true. But this halacha, you still keep the customs of the place that you're from. So how could it be that Rabbi Zera ate from one of the lower rings if he came from a place in Bavel of Rav and Shmuel, where they were the big rabbis? So Hani Mili Heicha did Daito Lachzor. When do you keep the stringencies of the place that you came from? That's when you have intention to go back. Rabbi Zera ain't Daito Lachzor Have. He came to stay.
So he took on the lower stringencies because he's staying there.
He's now Ben Eretz Yisrael. You go to Eretz Yisrael to move there. You keep one day. So, what is considered going there to move there? How much of a decision do you have to actually have? That's a debate among different authorities. Yeah. But could you make it here? Do you have a house here? Do you have a job here? Mm-hmm. So, okay. So Amrle Abaye le Rav Yosef. So Abaye tells Rav Yosef. He says, "I v'hara banan." The asu mimachuza, the rabbanon that came from Machuza, Amri Mishmei, they changed her of Nachlin, that Mugremes Kshera, that this idea of the lower rings, even in Machuza, which was in Bavel, that's kosher. So you're telling me Rav and Shmuel said it wasn't kosher. They're telling me it is kosher. So Amarle, Nahara Upashte, literally river, and it expands, meaning yeah, people come from different places, and each one has spread, so to speak. Meaning, from in Mechuza, he went after his custom. Rav and Shmuel, Surah and Pumbedisa had their customs, but in Bavel itself, there were different customs, and therefore it's not a question. Mechuza had its custom, and other parts of Bavel had their custom. And therefore he did nothing wrong, and therefore he came to Eretz Yisrael, and he was keeping from his customs. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Lakish. So now we go back to the picture for a second. The picture is here, and now we're going to be talking about the kova. So the kova is the top. So there's a big ring over here. Yeah. So on the pictures, it's on the right side towards the top is the kova. So far we haven't seen yet anything above this big ring is permitted shechita-wise.
Yeah, only on the top side.
On the top side, right.
And the bottom side is considered.
Bottom side is a debate.
Even halacha l'maisa.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it come out. Right. But so yeah. So okay. So what happens now? So now, yeah. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish achshir bechuda de kova. He permitted on the tip. On the tip is like the hat. A kova is a hat on the head, meaning it's pretty high up. And he permitted that if you shech there, that's still considered the place that you could shech. And it's not called hagrama. It's not above the place. It's still considered the place. So, Kari ala Rabbi Yochanan, gisa, meaning gisa, it's like too much. You went too far. A gas is like big. You went too far past, you're too lenient. That's others say the explanation is a geese in Hebrew is a brother-in-law. So Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shlakish married Rabbi Yochanan's sister. So along from being the best chavrusas, they were also brother-in-laws. So some say, Kari la Rabbi Yochanan, gisa, my brother-in-law. Too far. So yeah, Amar of Papi Mishmei de Rava. Rav Papi said in the name of Rava, Paga bechiti trefa. So he says this a little bit cryptic statement. Paga bechiti. Now, bechiti, Rash says is the glance. It's next to the kova. Do they have it here? The chiti? They do. In a picture of the chiti. On the top, right next to the kova, are these little things called the chiti. Yeah. So the question is paga. Now we'll see what paga. Literally, it means you encountered it. So now we're gonna have two opinions now and bring a verse for each one. Does that mean you actually touched it, or does it mean you came right next to it but didn't actually touch it? Okay. What exactly did he mean?
Doesn't paga mean to wound something? Like maybe he bounced the knife
kaga.
out there for a second. And
To pageia and someone is to. There's a pigua in Israel, right? An attack, right? So we'll see now. It's going to mean either actual touching or but you're right. So so that was Rav Papi in the name of Rava's statement. Paga bechiti trefa. If you touched, or if you were paga, we'll see what that means in a second. The chiti, those little strands to the left of the hat of the kova at the top of the trachea, trefa. That renders the animal a trefa. Ibailahu, what does paga mean? Paga v'naga bahen, paga, and he touched them, as we have in Malachim Diksiv vayifka bo vayamas. When it says vayifka bo vayamas, so he paga him and he died. Obviously, he touched him. Oh, dilma paga below naga. Maybe paga means you got so close, as close as you can, but you didn't touch it. Where do you find that to be the case? Kidiksiv vayifka bo malach elokim from Bereshis. Yaakov went along his way, and it's the very end, I think, when he leaves Lavan's house. So Lavan went back home, and Yaakov was halach b'darko vayifku malach elokim. He encountered the angels. Now, it doesn't mean that they did a chest bump, right? It means he met up. He was close to them. He met up with them. So that's the question. What did Rav Papi in the name of Rav mean by makes a big difference? But the big difference is if you ended up coming close and not touching them, is the animal now a treif or not? That's a lot of money on the line. So it could be your whole Yom Tov Suda, your whole Yom Tov meal. Or for the week, yeah, exactly. You're saying over, like in Europe, you have to find ways to be lenient over here because it's people's livelihood, it's people's food. You can't just be stringent. Exactly. You have to know exactly all the details. This was the halakha questions revolved around shkita. Itmar. So Amaraic statement, Amar of Papa, Mishmei de Rava, in the name of Rava, he said, Shayer bechiti kshera. If you left the chiti, sounds like he left them alone. So the way Rashi explains is you left some of them. So meaning you encountered some of them, you actually touched some of them and cut them. However, you left some over. You didn't cut all of it. You left some over. That we're saying in the name of Rava, is kshera. So that means he holds that paga could even mean paga vinaga. He encountered it. It means he touched it. He cut some of those strands, but he left some over. That's okay. The problem would be if you cut all of it and don't leave any over. Amarav, Meimar Bar Mar Yanuka Have Kamina Kamed Rav Chia, Braid Rav Avia. He was in front of Rav Chia, the son of Rav Avia. The Amar Li, he said to him, Shayer Bechiti Kshera. If you leave over some of the chiti, that's kosher. Amar Le Ravina Le Ravashi. So now Ravina said to Ravashi, Amar Li Rav Shaman Mi Suvra. He was a Rav Shaman from the town of Suvra. Ikla Marzutra Asrin. Marzutra went and visited the town of Suvra. Vidarash, and he gave a drasha. He came to shul and he got to speak. So what did he say? So Shayer Bechiti Kshera. He also said this, that if you can touch those strands, it's fine, but you have to leave some over. That's kosher. Mar Ravash Amar Paga Bechiti Kshera. Shayer Bechiti Trefa. So he says Paga Bechiti Kshera. Now it sounds like this means paga means you came very close to it, but you didn't actually cut it. That's fine. But if you did cut it and you left some over, shayer bechiti, that's a trefa. So really, this question of what paga meant is reflected in two opinions. Some say you can cut it, just leave some over, it's fine. And some say you cannot cut it. If you were to cut it and leave any over, that's not fine. So paga obviously means you came right up to it, but you didn't actually cut it. Next page. The hilchasa, the halacha is Mishipui kova ulemata kshera. So right before the way Rashi says is that the shipui means a slant, meaning where it gets slanted. So right before that, this kova, this top, the hat, starts slanting up. So from that point on and downwards is kshera. The hainu d'shayir bechiti. It's hard to see in the picture exactly where that is. I don't know where exactly is the part where it's going downwards. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because that's where it has like a flexible part of the of the way it's
you know animals well.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Sounds like maybe it's on the semicircle.
It's kind of like a joint where it can move its neck when it's alive.
If it says anything here, make it easier. From the slant of the helmet, the point at which the thyroid cartilage begins to taper upward. So
they get real detailed in there.
Yeah. So Mishipui Kova Ulamatak Shera. So that slant of the helmet and downward is going to be Shera. And that's what it means, Hainu Deshayir B'chiti. According to that opinion. Okay, so this is much more lenient, so to speak, than the previous page, where all we heard of was the Taba'as Gedola, or maybe the lower rings. This is higher up on the trachea. Rav Nachman Achshir Mishipui Kobo Lamata. Rav Nachman permitted this. So once it starts slanting up, that point and down is kosher. It's kosher. Rav Chanan Bar Rav Katina Li Rav Nachman. He said, "Who are you going like? Kiman lo kirabanan v'lo kirab Yossi Rabbi Yehuda." This was the Mishnah on 18a. The Mishnah 18a brought two opinions, both discussing the Tabas Gedola, the big ring, and the question was how much do you have to leave over of the Tabas Gedola to make sure the animal is kosher. But nobody spoke about this kova, the top to the right of this Tabas Gedola on the top of the trachea. So he's saying, very nice, you do that, but we have a Mishnah with two opinions. You're not like one of those opinions. So Amar Le, Ana lo chilik yadana v'lo bilik yadana. It's like a phrase where no chilik and no bilik. It's just a way of saying, that doesn't bother me. Basically, that's one explanation. Rashi says that it's like the way they used to talk. So bilik chilik. That it doesn't bother me. I don't know. Do they bring another? Exactly. Yeah. Very good. So some say that Chilik and Bilik were two judges on the court. So yeah, I don't hold of either one of those. Let's see if they see anything here. Yeah. Chilik. So some say Chilik refers to, it means from the word chalak, to divide. Refers to the rabbis who permit a shechita that divides the great ring into two smaller rings, and bilek from the word balak, which from Yeshaya and from Nachum means to destroy, signifies Rav Yossi, who allows a shechita that slices through the great ring at an angle, thus completely destroying the original form. Rashi disagrees, though, that these names carry no particular meaning. Like you said, okay, so fine. Now, Anna Shmaiti Adana. What do I know? I know what I learned in yeshiva. This is what I was taught. This is what I know. That from this kova, from the hat part and downwards, is where it's permitted. All these opinions, they say mishipui kova ulamatak shera. They all say that from that point of the kova, when it starts going up, that point downwards. If you check through that area, that is going to be kosher. Okay, so that concludes that. Now, the Amr of Shub and Levi, we had two opinions. The Rabbanan said that this is at the top of 18b. We had that. 1 second. We had that. This opinion that if you do 2/3 in the big ring, and then a little bit outside of it, is that good or not? That was one statement. That we also had, if you do the lower rings, is that good or not? So now, Amar Shub and Levi, Mugremes de Rabbanan, Sheira le Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Ud Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, Sheira Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos. So over here we had these opinions that if you shecht 2/3 for the majority of it, we'll see more about that, but you shecht the part of the Tabas Gedola and then part of it outside. So that was going to be that was going to be psula, it said, and then it testified there B'chinim and Antignos testified about this case that it's kosher. Now 1 second. Yeah. So this is all really coming off the Mishnah. The Mishnah that talked about how much you have to leave over in the big ring, the tabasola, in order to be kosher. So the first opinion held you have to leave over enough that it can go, a strand that it can still go around. And Rabbi Yehuda sounds like he said a smaller amount would be allowed. Now, 1 second. Rabbi Yehuda only said this by the big ring, it said, but by the small rings, he never said this. To that, we brought this brisa that we're going to analyze now, because in that brisa, it said that Rabbi Yehuda said that if you slaughter the rest of the rings, so it's going to be kosher. It's just, he said, umugremes is going to be psula. Mugremes means that even if you do majority of it, but if you leave that area, so then it's going to be, sorry, that everyone said that if you shecht even the majority and you leave that area, you go above or below, then it's going to be invalid. So, and to that, Rabbi Chanina argued. So now the Gemara is saying that according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, mugremes derabanan kshera. In general, if you do majority of in the ring and you go outside, so either a little below or a little above, that's going to be valid, even for Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, who has a smaller amount that you have to leave over of the big ring, his opinion will agree. Rabbi Chanina will agree to his opinion. It's going to be Sheira Lil Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos. Says the Gemara, well, what did Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos say? He just said, Al Mugremes Shehik Sheira. All he said was that he testified that if you leave the area that's kosher, you do the majority, then you go above or beyond, it's still going to be good. That's the Gemara Pshita. Yeah, like what's the novelty that he'll agree to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda? Says the Gemara, Ma'udatim that Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos adirabanan kai. Maybe when he testified, he was only going according to the opinion of the Rabbanan. Kamash Malan, that he's even going like Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. So maybe the Ema Chanami, he's only going like the Rabbanan and not like Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. But then the Gemara says, well, the way he phrased his thing was, hey, he testified. It didn't say he testified on it, just he testified. Sounds like it's its own thing, not getting involved in those two opinions. So Imkain Haid Allah Mibayila, it should be he testified upon it. We have two opinions. He testified about A, then you know he goes like A. But it doesn't say that. It just says, hey, he testified, you should know Mugramis Kshera. He just made a statement, not getting involved in the other two opinions. And therefore, that's what we're being taught. The Hilchasa Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos and halachas like him, that Mugremes is going to be Kshera. That if you slaughter in the correct area, but then leave that area, it's still going to be kosher. Why is the halacha like him? The Kai Rav Nachman Kivasei, because Rav Nachman goes like him, and Rav Nachman was enough of authority that once he does something, that's how we hold, and therefore he holds like Rabbi ben Antignos, and that's going to be the halacha. And we'll see more exactly how much you have to slaughter in the correct area to be considered. That's right now coming up. So simply understood, right? You would think that wherever the correct place to do shechita is, you would say 51%. If you do it there, you covered your bases. If you do a part outside of that, so then that's fine. That's this halacha. As long as the majority is done there, that's fine. Logic being, the Gemara is going to say that at 51%, the animal dies. So 51% that you did in the proper area, if you do 49% in too high or too low, that's still going to be kshera. The question is going to be is, let's say you do, we're going to see, you do 1/3 in the wrong area, but then you do either 1 or 2/3 in the correct area. So let's say you do 33% of the shechita in the wrong area, but now you do 18% of the shechita in the right area. So the reason why that's significant is because once at that, in the correct area, you pass the threshold of 50%. So that's what killed the animal in the correct area, even though it wasn't the majority.
That's only if it was the same cut. Got two cuts.
Okay.
Is that correct?
We'll see. I think so.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
So let's see. Amar of Huna, Amar of Asi, Machlokas, B'shachat, Shnei Shlish, Higrim Shlish. Simple way to understand it. This idea that you can cut outside the right area and it's good is only if it's the minority. So 2/3 in the right area and 1/3 can be too high or too low, and that's going to be fine. So now why? What's the logic? The Rabbanan Savri, the Rabbanan say this is no good. Why do they say it's no good? Because they hold kulo shchita ba'inan, b'taba'as gedola. Now, the Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda argues and said it is good. Why? Savar, a general principle we have, rubo kekulo. In general, when you have a majority, you can consider the majority like the whole thing. When you need 3 judges and 2 of them say guilty, 1 says innocent, that's considered like you have 3, right? Now, you can't do that for a minyan. If you have 6, you can't do like you have 10. That you can't do. But if you need a number and you have that number, just there's a minority that disagrees, then you can invoke the principle of rubo kekulo. So Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda is really the logical one because he's invoking a principle that we always use. The Rabbanan are the novelty. They say that no, in this case, you need the entire shechita in the correct area. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda says no, you have to have the majority, rubo kekulo, and then if they have a minority, 1/3 outside that area, so then it's still going to be fine. Aval, let's say higrim shlish v'shachat shnei shlish. What if you did 1/3 outside the right area, v'shachat shnei shlish, 2/3 in the right area? So then divrei hakol sula. So we're gonna have 2 versions of this. The first version is if 2/3 was slaughtered in the proper area after 1/3 was slaughtered in the improper area. So then even Rabbi Yossi is going to say it's going to be invalid according to this opinion. This opinion holds that when you need to have the majority, you have to have the when the animal dies, it has to be that's the majority of the shechita. You need the animal to die with a 51% shechita in the right area. In this case, you have 33% of the shechita was in the wrong area. That was the higrim b'shlish. Then you did 2/3 in the right area, but all you needed was 18% to get the 51 to kill the animal. You can't have this opinion holds. You cannot have 18% being what kills the animal. You need 51% to be what's going to kill the animal, not 18. That's why this opinion holds that it's going to be invalid. You don't have that. So that's the opinion. This is all the opinion of Rav Huna in the name of Rav Asi. However, Amar le Rav Chisda Adrabah. No, say the opposite. Lemamar Ibcha. Master should have said the opposite. Machlokes b'shehigrim shlish v'shachat shnei shlish. Their debate is that what we just said is invalid according to everybody. He says no. That's where the debate is. 1/3 in the improper area, 2/3 in the proper area. The Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Savar Mididahavi Achetzi Kana Pagum. Now, he says, what's the logic of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda that 18% in the proper area got you over the top and it's good? So he invokes something that we'll see, God willing, in hopefully 10 days. Is let's say you have the tube is it's it needs to be 51% for the animal to die. Let's say 49% of it is already damaged, and all you do is 2 more percent. So now you're the one that killed the animal. So that we say later, that's valid. So why should this be any worse than that? Just like over there, if 49% of the tube is pugum, is already damaged, and all you do is check on the 2%, valid. So to here, 1/3 was slaughtered in an improper area. So all you did now is 18 more percent in the proper area. So that should be good to go. No worse, no better than that halacha. So that is Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbanan, what are they going to say? Hasam makom shchita. The difference is there, it became invalid. I mean, not invalid. It became damaged, but it was in a makom shchita. Your whole shchita was in a makom shchita. Hacha, you're doing something not in the makom shchita, not in the place of the shchita. That's worse. Hachalav makom shchita. Aval shachat. But let's say now the other case. The flip side is you did shachat shnei shlish, 2/3 in the right area, behegrim shlish, and 1/3 in an incorrect area. Divrei hakol ksheira. Everyone, even the Rabbanan, are going to say that it's good. So you have 2 versions of where the debate is, and really they're very different. The big difference is when you have, let's say, 2/3 in a good place and 1/3 in not a good place. So what would the rabbis say? The first opinion held the rabbis need to have the entire thing. You need to have the whole shechita in the proper area. No way out, no above, no below. That's one opinion. According to this opinion, though, as long as you have most of the shechita in the proper area, that's good to go. That's going to be kosher according to everybody. The Hatanan, the Hatanan, Ruba, Shell, Echad, Kamohu, that it's as long as you slaughtered the majority of the pipe, of the tube, that's fine. So what do you see? All you need is Ruba Kakulo. So if all you need is Ruba Kakulos, then so that would make this very logical. You did 2/3 in the right area, Ruba Kakulo. You go after the majority. Amar Le, Rabbi Yosef, 1 second. My name on the Hu Ruba the Hasam. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Katanila. You can't bring me a Mishnah as a proof that look, we hold to the majority. Maybe that Mishnah is only the opinion of Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda. So maybe there's a debate here, Rabbi Yosef, a fundamental debate that in the world of Shechita, can you follow this rule of Rubo Kikulo that you go after the majority? And don't bring me that Mishnah as a support to the rabbis. Maybe that Mishnah is only going like Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda. So, Dilma Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Katanila, Amalei Abaye, Atu Kol Ruba the Alma Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Katanilahu. This principle of Ruba Kakulo is not limited to Rabbi Yosef. This is something that we hold of all through Shas, all through Halacha. So it's not logical to pin such a big concept on one opinion. So it's more logical to say that it goes according to everybody. So Amalei, he told him back, okay, but on Ruba the Shechita, Kamina, Dishaman Lahu the Pligi, but he fights back and he says, you're right in general, but I hold that we have a debate in slaughtering. Do you go after Rov? You're right. In general, we're going to say that what in the rest of Torah, everyone's going to agree to this principle, Ruba Kekula. But specifically in the world of Shechita, I hold that that's where their debate is, and therefore he held like the first version was that according to the rabbis, you need the entire Shechita to be done in the Makom HaShechita, in the place of the proper place for slaughtering. No, nothing, even 1/3 after, cannot be done above or below. And the second opinion held no, that it could. Okay, so now we're going to say a very similar version to the story, just with a few differences. Lishna Achrina, another version of the story is Amrila, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Asi. So Rav Huna named Rav Asi, which is the same first opinion that's earlier. Machlokes shehigrim shlish b'shachat shnei shlish. He holds, this version holds that you have shehigrim shlish b'shachat shnei shlish. You did hagrama, you slaughtered 1/3 outside of the right area, either above or below, v'shachat shnei shlish, and then 2/3 in the proper area. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Savar Midi Dehavia Chetzi Kana Pagam. Just like when you have a lot of the tube is already damaged, and you do the last little 2% to get it to 51%, it's going to be fine. So to over here, you did 1/3. 1/3 is in the wrong area. You need, let's say, 18% more to put over the top. You did that, so that should be valid. V'Rabbanan say no. Hasam makom shchita, hakalav makom shchita. There it was. You did it in the place of the shchita. Here it was not in the place of the shchita. Shakat shnei shlish, the higrim shlish, but 2/3 in the right area and 1/3 above or below in the wrong area. Divrei kol kshera. So this is a lishna achrina because this Rav Huna, right now, our version of Rav Huna was our previous version of not Rav Huna, but Rav Chisda. So this Lishna Achrina, what we're saying now in the name of Rav Huna, earlier was in the name of Rav Chisda. That's why it's a Lishna Achrina. So, and now he brings up proof, the Hatnan, Rubo Shlachar Kamo. Look, the Mishnah says that most of the tube has to be shechted. So look, you go after the majority. So you go after the majority here too. To that, Maskefla Rav Chisda, Man Lemalon, Dehu Ruba the Hasam Lav Ruba Lav Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. But you can't bring me a mission as a proof that you go after the majority, because maybe that majority is only going according to Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda and not the rabbis. Dilma Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Katanila. Amar Le Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef said back, I'll call Ruba the Amar Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Katanilu. But you think the whole majority in halacha is only pinned on one person's opinion of Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda? That's not logical. Amar Le, and he's saying it's not accurate. Amar Le, no, I meant on a Ruba the Shechita coming the Shaman al the Pligi. I'm just saying that in the world of Shechita, same as before, in the world of Shechita, they argue, can you follow Rov or not? So two versions of the two opinions. Higrim shlish, v'shachat shlish, v'higrim shlish. Now it gets exciting. You do 1/3 outside the right area, 1/3 in the right area, and 1/3 outside the right area. So the important part's going to be that when you were in the right area, you got it from 33 to 51%. So can or can that not be the enough to make it kosher? So Rav Higrim Shlish v'Shachat Shlish v'Higrim Shlish. Rav Huna Amar Rav Huna said in the name of Rav Shera. That's good. Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Treifa. No, it's a Treifa. No good. Sounds like that's what the lach is like. That's what the letter is. Rav Huna Amar Rav Shera. Why? Logical. Hinafka Chiyusa v'Shchita Kanafka. When did it die? It died in the second third, from 33 to 51%. So that was the vital point that we needed. That was done in the proper area. So therefore, it's going to be kosher. How could you argue with that? Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Treifa. Why? Ba'inan ruba b'shchita v'leka. You need to have majority in the place of the shchita. So we're not looking for only the animal dying and that being in the proper area, but we need the majority to be done in that area. So getting you from 33 to 51 is not enough. You need to have 51 in the right area, and that you don't have. Shachat shlish v'higrim shlish v'shachat shlish. 1/3 outside the right area, 1/3 in the right area, 1/3. Shachat shlish. You did 1/3 in the right area. Sorry. V'higrim shlish in the wrong area, 1/3 in the wrong area, and then back to the right area. The shachat shlish. So it's interesting. You officially have 66% in the right area, but the middle part, which killed the animal, was in the wrong area. So Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Kshera. Oh, he says it's kshera, and that sounds like the halacha is like. So that's interesting. Yeah. So now also Shayule le Rav Huna Amar lehu treifa. He said it's a treifa. Sham Rav Yehuda ikbid. He heard about it. It's a treifa. He got very upset. Amar. I don't understand. Tarif no mash. When I hold treif, you say it's kosher. A good Jewish discussion, right? Yeah. When I hold treif, you say it's kosher. Umakshar natarif. And when I say kosher, you hold treif. So Amar Rav Huna. No, shapir kamakbid. It's good that you got upset. Chad the ihu shmielu minei derav. But on the low shmieli, first of all, he heard it from Rav. I never heard it from Rav. The od haika ruba b'shchita. And two, you have to have ruba de shchita. So Amar Rav Chisda lo taderbach. Don't retract your statement. Stay upset. Okay, let's stop here.
Yeah.
Okay. Good smelling coffee. Waiting.